Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Chevy Chase Historical Society's virtual Spring Gala. We are celebrating the Society's 40th anniversary with a party on the porch. Tonight's presentation will include a colorful history of the porch from architectural historian Sandy Heiler. We'll hear ideas for entertaining on your own porch from Chevy Chase interior designers Katie Anderson, Sarah Hayes, and Deborah Scheck. And we'll close with a look at the amazing variety of porches throughout the Chevy Chase community. I'm joining you tonight from my porch here in Chevy Chase, and say cheers to a good show. Next up, CCHS President Mary Sheehan to tell you more about this evening's celebration and the great work of Chevy Chase Historical Society. Take it away, Mary.
Thank you, Doug, for kicking off the CCHS Spring Gala and for being the neighborhood host for our party on the porch. We are thrilled to be celebrating our 40th anniversary with all of you at our first ever virtual Spring Gala. Many of you are longtime friends and supporters who have joined us in person over the years, gathering each spring for dinner at a historic Chevy Chase home. But for some of you, this is your first CCHS Spring Gala, and we welcome you. To state the obvious, the year of the pandemic has been enormously challenging for all nonprofit organizations, including CCHS. But because of members and supporters like you, we have been able to carry on much of our usual business and activities while working remotely. But we can't wait until we can be with you all in person once again. The story of CCHS began in the late 1970s when a group of Chevy Chase friends and neighbors began developing a plan to preserve the unique and important history of our community. In 1981, 40 years ago this year, they implemented that plan by establishing the Chevy Chase Historical Society. We've come a long way in those 40 years. Our collection of historic photos, maps, drawings, house histories, and oral histories has grown tremendously. That collection, which was first housed in a closet in the Chevy Chase Village Hall, now resides in a climate-controlled room in our Archive and Research Center at 8401 Connecticut Avenue. What began as a completely volunteer organization has become increasingly professional, and today we employ a full-time archivist as the director of our center. Our free public lectures in the spring and fall that once drew a small group now routinely have audiences of well over 100 people and sometimes many more. Our collection has been digitized and can be accessed and searched on our website. And some of the very best stories from our history have been distilled into fun and user-friendly online exhibits. We have indeed come a long way. So we have much to celebrate tonight and much to be thankful for. And speaking of thanks, we want to extend our heartfelt thanks to all of those, in addition to Doug, who made this 40th anniversary gala a reality. We are beyond grateful to our gala sponsors and friends whose names you saw listed at the beginning of the program. I want to give a special acknowledgement to our highest level pinnacle sponsors, Adrian Arsht, the Chevy Chase Land Company, and TTR Sotheby's International Realty. Tonight's event would not have been possible without the creativity, energy, and dedication of our gala co-chairs, Honor Ingersoll and Jessica Johnson, and the committee that they led. Architectural historian Sandy Heiler, whom I'll introduce in a moment, has been an endless source of information about the surprising and fun history of the front porch, not to mention a delight to work with. The three designers you'll be meeting tonight and the gracious homeowners who've shared their porches have added a new dimension to our gala, along with their ideas for entertaining on your porch. Andrew Townsend and his team at Townsend Visuals guided us through this first experience with a virtual gala and produced the program that you are watching tonight. And of course, it would not be a CCHS gala without Alain Roussel and his team at La Ferme Restaurant, who have once again worked their magic to provide the hors d'oeuvres and wine in our party bags. We are deeply grateful to each one of these partners for their contributions to the gala. As Doug mentioned, the first segment of our celebration is a presentation on the architectural and social history of the American porch by architectural historian Sandy Heiler. Sandy has been a member of the Montgomery County Historic Preservation Commission for the past 12 years and has served as chair for the past 2 years. She is a member of the Board of Directors and Treasurer of Montgomery Preservation, Inc. She is also a former board member of Preservation Maryland and serves as a consultant to the Maryland State Highway Administration concerning the impact of transportation planning on historic resources. While living in New England before coming to the Washington area, Sandy served on the Sudbury, Massachusetts Historic Districts Commission, worked as a historic properties researcher for the Massachusetts Trustees of Reservations, and served as the curator of the Robert Payne Museum in Ipswich, Massachusetts. Sandy has a BA in mathematics and a master's degree in architectural history and historic preservation from Boston University. She and her husband live in a historic home in Brookville, Maryland. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Sandy while I head out to my porch to watch the rest of the gala. I'll see you all a bit later.
There's probably no other architectural feature that evokes such feelings of comfort, welcome, and nostalgia as the front porch. It's an outdoor living room for relaxing, visiting, entertaining, and people watching. At the same time, it's an important architectural feature on the front of a house. It doesn't just enhance the main facade, it's often the most distinctive part of the design. Two terms that are often confused and used interchangeably are portico and porch. One way to distinguish them is by function. A portico has one main function, to embellish the front of the house, sometimes to even be the front of the house. It's an architectural feature, albeit an extremely important one that can define the character of the house. A porch, though, has two main functions. The same architectural one as a portico, to embellish the front of the house, and a second, maybe even more important one, to be an outdoor room for sitting around, playing, visiting, entertaining, communing with nature, showing off children and pets, even showing off the owner's good taste. Of course, both porticos and porches keep people at the front door out of the rain, too. The Madisons had a portico on one side of Montpelier and a porch on the other. Among the kinds of domestic spaces that people have built, the front porch is unique. It is both private and public. It straddles both the domestic and the natural realms. A person on the porch is both inside and outside, protected but exposed. A feeling illustrated by a friend's memory of sitting on the porch, wrapped in a quilt, and watching a violent thunderstorm roll through. The porch has always been a place to relax, but in the 19th century and into the 20th, it required a degree of formality, adherence to what we can think of as porch etiquette, because a person on the porch was, in a sense, on display. It was a sort of outdoor parlor, and like the parlor, it called for special furniture. Hammocks, swings, wicker rocking chairs, and plant stands were best sellers for porches. Like the yard, it allowed for activities that wouldn't be tolerated in the indoor parlor: painting, messy children's games, and eating and drinking, at least lemonade and cookies, but definitely not breakfast or Sunday dinner. In warm weather, people used their porches for socializing. A lady on her front porch sent the same message as the formal, quote, at-home card, that she'd welcome social calls. Children, properly dressed children, of course, used the porch for games that weren't appropriate for the indoor parlor, but were considered to be safer on the porch than they might have been further from the house. People read on the porch, played board games, and a gentleman might enjoy an after-dinner cigar out there. The front porch even allowed for courtship without a chaperone. It encouraged intimate conversation, but its public nature discouraged more intimacy than that. The heyday of the front porch in the United States, especially in this area, began in the first half of the 19th century and petered out toward the middle of the 20th. Americans didn't put porches on 18th century houses, but during the 19th and early 20th centuries, porches became integral to almost all of the architectural styles that caught on. The question is, what made front porches so popular during the 19th and early 20th century? Why did they become so desirable that by World War II they were ubiquitous? By 1900, Chevy Chase was a perfect example of how incredibly popular front porches were. One reason that porches became so popular during the 19th century is that people who would have poo-pooed the idea a few years earlier began to believe that fresh air and being outdoors were necessities for their physical, mental, even spiritual well-being. Doctors had noticed that patients treated in closed wards didn't fare as well as patients exposed to sunshine and fresh air, and sanatoriums began to feature porches or pavilions for patients. Even George Washington, on his only trip outside of the country, when he accompanied his ailing brother to Barbados, saw firsthand how relaxing, comfortable, and healthful a porch could be. On his return, as he thought about his retirement, he added a full-width front porch to Mount Vernon. At the same time, the Romantic movement that had a profound influence on art and music got people besides artists and musicians to focus on the importance of the senses, on emotions and feelings, especially the ones aroused by the beauty of nature. By the middle of the 19th century, city planners started to take seriously the need for people to enjoy the benefits of the outdoors. They created public parks, the so-called lungs of the city, Central Park in New York, the Emerald Necklace around Boston, and landscaped the National Mall. And more people built houses in healthful, beautiful, natural surroundings. Another powerful, albeit indirect force that influenced the kind of houses Americans built was their desire to be, and appear to be, quote, refined. In the 18th century, when Americans were still British colonists, refinement meant taking cues from British aristocrats, copying the manners, fashions, leisure activities, houses, and other status symbols, the looking glasses and tea tables, wallpaper and silver spoons that would distinguish them as gentry. After the Revolution, though, these newly independent Americans began to aspire to a more American form of refinement, one that was less artificial and more egalitarian and in tune with the values of democracy than the desire for gentry status. What they wanted was, quote, respectability for themselves and their children. Their aspirations influenced their manners, how they dressed, how they spent their leisure time, their taste in art and music, their appreciation of nature, and their housing preferences. Those aspirations spread across the upper class and the whole large emerging middle class, in fact, to almost everyone but the poor and the working class. People devoted more and more of their leisure to what were viewed as respectable activities, drawing and painting, reading aloud with the family in the evening. They dedicated separate rooms for separate activities, a special room for dining, for example. They moved the leisure and socializing room, the parlor, to the front of the house, and the utilitarian kitchen to the rear. And they acquired the accoutrements of respectable living, matching dinnerware, a sideboard, even a pump organ or a piano and sheet music. In 1900, when the total population of the United States was only 79 million, Americans owned a whopping 1 million pianos. In front of their houses, respectable people replaced animal pens with landscaped lawns, flower gardens, and picket fences. And many of them built houses with a graceful transition between the house and the yard, a front porch. And they used it for relaxing outside and socializing, thoroughly respectable leisure activities. Although almost all people of color were systematically excluded from the ranks of the so-called respectable people, when they weren't, they had the same aspirations as everyone else, and they built houses with front porches. Industrialization made it easier and cheaper to build a house with a porch by producing low-cost, factory-made components. Where building a beautifully decorated porch once depended on access to highly skilled local artisans, now people could pick and choose columns, balusters, spindles, brackets, and lattice work from a catalog. Improvements in transportation, paved roads, steamships, railroads, even streetcars brought off-the-shelf parts to where they were needed. And those same transportation options made it practical for people to work in the city but live in the country, where it was easier to have a house with a front porch. Front porches were integrated into every new architectural style. For example, designs for colonial revival houses didn't actually replicate classic early American styles like Georgian or Federal, but put triangular pediments or scrolled split ones, Doric columns, oriel windows, louvered shutters, even widow's walks on basic symmetrical shapes, and put those same features on their front porches. Greek revival house designs were loosely based on ancient Greek temples, but smaller and simplified. Temple porticos became front porches with slimmed-down versions of massive ancient columns. The designs of Italianate houses were based on rambling Italian farmhouses combined with decorative details of the Italian Renaissance. Their front porches typically connected a series of arches and square columns, openwork brackets and railings, all derived from classical styles but recreated in wood. The foursquare was a natural for incorporating ideas from different historical periods in a front porch. Elaborate decorative details from Gothic to Romanesque and every variation of Victorian, from Queen Anne to shingle or stick style, were layered on the porch. A few popular styles, though, are basically incompatible with front porches. Accurate reproductions of Georgian or Federal houses don't have front porches because the originals didn't. And Tudor houses typically feature masonry front walls that create a powerful separation between outdoors and indoors, public and private. The stone, brick, or stucco facade looks strong and secure. It suggests that maybe a man's home really is his castle. And when a carved stone portico is added, it magnifies the effect of solidity, not openness and welcome. Revival-style Tudor houses, though, often do have front porches. Many of them feature square wood posts and heavy wooden brackets that mimic half timbering and make the front porch look like it belongs on a Tudor revival house. In the early years of the 19th century, front porches were already becoming popular, but one person is credited with the explosion in their popularity in the middle of the century: the self-proclaimed arbiter of good taste, Andrew Jackson Downing. Downing was born in 1815 and began his career as a landscape designer when he was only 15. By the time he was in his 20s, he was already famous as Frederick Law Olmsted's mentor and the main force calling for building Central Park, surrounding the Smithsonian Castle and the White House grounds with gardens, and making the National Mall a park, although the Congress ultimately rejected his design as too expensive. Downing was so admired that when he died tragically at 37 in a steamship accident, this urn was dedicated to him and placed in the garden in front of the Smithsonian Castle. In his 30s, Downing collaborated with architect Alexander Jackson Davis to produce designs with elaborately decorated front porches for mansions, cottages for the middle class, even farmhouses. The designs embodied Downing's idea that a beautiful, functional house that integrated the landscape and the building, with a porch linking the two, would, quote, encourage its inhabitants to pursue a moral existence. What could be more respectable than that? The partners published their designs in pattern books that were so successful that other architects copied the approach. By the end of the century, newspapers advertised catalogs of house designs that people could choose from to buy blueprints for architect-designed, high-style houses by mail order. By the 1950s, though, almost no one was building houses with front porches. More and more car and truck traffic diminished the pleasure of relaxing or socializing on the front porch. Air conditioning meant that it wasn't necessarily more comfortable outside during hot weather than in the house. Television replaced radio as the popular source of home entertainment, but television sets were big and bulky and meant to be viewed indoors, whereas the radio had been easily set on the sill of an open window so people could listen to the ball game on the front porch. Telephone calls took the place of in-person visits, and Americans embraced the informality of the backyard patio and the deck. Now that trend may be reversing, as people feel a degree of nostalgia for their grandmother's front porch and a renewed desire for a sense of community. Some architects and builders have responded by incorporating the old idea of the open, welcoming front porch in new designs like the one in this ad. Let's hope they continue. Thank you.
Next, we will visit 3 historic homes in Chevy Chase, each with a unique history and style. Joining us will be 3 Chevy Chase interior designers to share entertaining and styling tips for your next party on the porch. Designer Katie Anderson is joining us from her fabulous screened-in porch to share a cozy living space and artful entertaining tips, including her favorite cocktail.
Hi, I'm Katie Anderson, and welcome to my home. This American 4-square home was built in 1909 for the Roberts family. It was designed based on an article in the Ladies' Home Journal in 1906, which featured model suburban homes which can be built at a moderate cost. The original plans called for twin porches on both sides of the home. And since we moved here in 2013, we've enclosed both of these porches for additional family space and office space. But in 2019, we started our porch revival to create this beautiful screened-in porch. And this is where we're hosting our party on the porch today. My husband and I grew up in the South, where entertaining on screen porches is a way of life. We cherish this aspect of outdoor living, and our goal in this porch revival was to really bring the inside out, to create a beautiful and functional living space where we can enjoy all the seasons. One of our favorite aspects of our porch is our outdoor fireplace. We built this with our friends and family in mind. We wanted them to be able to come over and enjoy our porch even throughout the winter. I created a true living room here with indoor and outdoor draperies, our chandelier, our rugs, furniture, accessories. It makes us feel as cozy outside as we would be inside. I see entertaining as a chance to share our beautiful spaces. I'm always decorating to entertain. And for me, no party would be complete without food, fresh flowers, the perfect amount of lighting, and of course, your favorite cocktail. Fresh flowers add texture and color, and they add a wonderful scent to the room. I love to use all levels of lighting for parties. We dim or we turn off our overheads, and we light all of our candles. I actually use almost a dozen votives every time we have people over on our porch. I feel like it creates the perfect ambiance. And I always pick a votive that's going to burn a little bit longer than the expected time of our party. I hate to see lights burn out mid-party. To me, the tablescape is really one of the most important aspects of entertaining. Whether you're having a seated dinner, or you're having a cocktail party, or you're just having a countertop with hors d'oeuvres, I love to see platters with unique serving pieces or eye-catching, artful dinner plates, something really unique. Today you'll see I have this beautiful charcuterie platter from one of my favorite local businesses, Honey Leaf Platters. Not only do I love a beautiful charcuterie platter, but I love sharing a favorite cocktail. And today we're having our favorite tequila drink. The secret ingredient is crushed ice, along with tequila, club soda, grapefruit juice, and fresh limes. So cheers to you, enjoy your party on the porch, and thanks to the Chevy Chase Historical Society.
Designer Deborah Scheck and homeowner Kirsten Williams are up next. They will demonstrate how to refresh a front porch in preparation for a casual gathering of friends for summer cocktails.
Hi, I'm Deborah Scheck, and I've worked in interior design for 15 years. I work with families in Chevy Chase and other nearby neighborhoods to help them create spaces in their own homes that reflect their lifestyle and taste. But my own design philosophy is that our life outside of our homes can be so chaotic, and for my own home, I really like a space that is calming and peaceful. And for me, that means modern lines and a clean aesthetic and plenty of storage to put knickknacks and things away. Having said that, I really appreciate the craftsmanship and detail that we all have in our own homes. And it's a big challenge for me that I enjoy to marry the old with the new. I'm lucky enough to be working with Kirsten Williams on her porch for this project. And those of you who know Kirsten know that the real draw to their front porch is her friendly personality, as well as the smart, dry sense of humor of her husband, John Dorsey, and their 2 lovely girls. Their porch and house do stand out because of its unique color palette of blue and green. This year, their house is 100 years old, It's a charming bungalow that was renovated and seamlessly expanded in 2013. We are just doing a slight refresh to their porch because they have chairs that are comfortable and they just want maybe some new cushions, maybe a new rug, and some other little accents. And once they bring out an amazing cocktail and invite their friends, that's what really works for their porch. Sometimes just a quick refresh can be all that you need for a space. I've worked with Kirsten and John a bit on some projects inside their house, and I know that they have collected mid-century pieces, both from Kirsten's time at working at Knoll and some beautiful pieces from John's family. And I hope maybe one day we'll work more on the porch and add some pieces that have these clean lines that they are drawn to.
Designer Sarah Hayes is featuring a summer escape throwback to the early 1900s with croquet on the lawn, a speakeasy-inspired cocktail, and vintage Schumacher fabric.
Hi, I'm Sarah Hayes. I am excited to be participating in the Chevy Chase Historical Society Gala with a focus on porches and outdoor entertaining. The home that I am focusing on actually has a really fun history. It was built in the early 1900s, as many, of course, of the houses in Chevy Chase Village were, as a summer getaway. And part of its interesting history, the homeowner filled me in, was that at one time the descendants of Alexander Graham Bell inhabited this house. And it actually backs up to the Chevy Chase Club golf course. At one time, I'm told, the first flying machine actually landed on the grounds of the Chevy Chase Club, and people were picnicking and had spread blankets and were just sort of enjoying the sunset and this new wonder at the turn of the century. So the history of this house really is integrated with its connection to the backyard and how it opens up to the grounds of the club. When the house was originally built, it actually did not have a back porch. So the homeowners of this house on Cedar Parkway did a renovation recently, and as part of that renovation, they opened up the floor plan to add French doors off the back to sort of enhance that indoor-outdoor living and open it up to the back of the house. They added a back porch that was consistent with the original front porch in the 1910 colonial revival style. This house was actually featured in the 1975 second annual Village Home Tour, which was one of the tours that sparked an interest in Chevy Chase history in general and actually began the formation of the Chevy Chase Historical Society. So when thinking about porches in general, I thought about the fact that porches are our transition from outdoors to in, and this porch being open air also participates in the changing of the seasons. So the decor can be very ephemeral in nature. And with that, we could have a lot of fun. So you can bring in elements that speak to the different seasons, especially here in the DC area, as we really feel each of those seasons. So I wanted to have a little bit of fun. The history of this house made me think about, the original reason that it was built, this summer escape, and especially that era, the early 1900s. So I called up a friend of mine at Schumacher, who kind of brainstormed with me, and I found this lovely Paul Poiret print from the turn of the century. And we're going to take that and focus our colors and decor and entertaining theme around this specific print on the porch. When I visited this house for the first time, I looked out over their beautiful lawn and their setting backing up to the Chevy Chase Club, and obviously the gorgeous sunsets that they see. And it made me think of these images that I had seen while researching this project. I saw these photographs of young women playing croquet and other lawn games, including tennis, of course. So what we're going to do is throw a little party with croquet and some beverages from the time and a little Paul-Poiret fabric. So I'm really excited and looking forward to this little transformation.
Thank you to Katie Anderson, Sarah Hayes, and Deborah Scheck for sharing your talents and giving us creative and inspiring ideas for hosting our next party on the porch. We'll wrap up tonight's gala with a virtual stroll through the streets of Chevy Chase to see our community's fascinating assortment of porches, from the stately to the fanciful to the cozy. Then we'll hear some final words from CCHS President Mary Sheen.
hope you've enjoyed our salute to the porch, a defining and beloved feature of so many Chevy Chase homes. CCHS's programs and events depend upon the support of friends and neighbors like you. If you're already a member of CCHS, we thank you. And if you are not, we urge you to become a member, which you can easily do on our website, chevychasehistory.org. Earlier, I talked about the CCHS archival collection. Much of our collection has come from donations from residents and friends like you. So while you are cleaning out your closets and attics, Please keep your eyes open for photos, letters, other documents, and memorabilia that would help us tell the stories of our community's history. If you like, we would be happy to make copies of your items and return the originals to you. And with that, many thanks again to each of you for joining the CCHS Party on the Porch, and good night.